to bring them more into balance.
Do you even work in areas like the attic and the basement, places that you might not spend a lot of time or any time at all? Is that important?
Yes, it is important because that's where we store a lot of stuff.
The clutter.
Yeah. People are always like, you don't need to go in the garage. Yeah, I mean, it's part of the house. It's part of your experience. It is affecting you. Even if you're not aware of it, it does have an impact on you.
Do you work on outdoor spaces as well, like the porch or the backyard, or is it only internal within four-wall space?
No, it works with the whole piece of property because actually you're trying to find where you sit in relationship to your larger environment. So it's not only where you sit in your chair at your desk, it's then where is that desk and chair in your office or your room, and then where is that office in the building that you inhabit, and then where is your building in relationship to the larger environment. And yeah, it just
wow. It started small, but it gets deeper and deeper and deeper as you're explaining it.
Yeah, and it just shows how connected we are. It's just at what level are we looking at.
Now, I know you mentioned that you put the compass on a blueprint. It seems so ideal for someone to come and talk to you before they build a new building because you could do so much work. But can you fix an existing building that has already been built that may not be working very well?
Definitely. I mean, I come from the belief that we can always do some good. We can always diminish some negative energy, and we can always bring in some more positive energy. A great thing to do if you are going to build is to when you hire an architect or an engineer, and you're really trying to site the building, they're looking at similar things that I would look at. Where is the orientation of the sun? Where are you in relationship to the larger environment? And I also look at astrology. So the Chinese believe that when we put the roof on the house, we trap the qi of that time. It's kind of like when we take our first breath, that's what gives us our astrological footprint. So it makes us a Sagittarius or a Leo or whatever. The house has an astrological blueprint as well. So if we can just move the house maybe 10 or 15 degrees, we may get a really great astrological reading. Wow. So it can be done, and it's great to start from that point. But generally, we are using the built environment as it is.
Now, the other diagram goes into more detail than the compass one that you just showed us. Can you explain a little bit about what's going on there?
Yeah, so it's called the bagua, and which means
what does that mean?
It means 8 houses, and so that's also related to the 8 compass directions. So each direction has a particular energy or qi. So for instance, from the east, if you just think about what happens in the east, the sun rises in the east. Okay, so that rising energy. Then also it's associated with spring, because in spring, that's what everything's doing. It's rising out of the soil. It also has a taste to it. It has an organ part to it. So it has all of these elements that are talking, it relates to family and ancestors. So we can start seeing if we look at the east part of a house, what does that say about your relationship with your ancestors or your family? What's the health issues there? It has to do with the energy of wood is the element. That has to do with liver. Is there any issues with liver? So we can start seeing these relationships by looking at the compass directions.
Fascinating. Can you tell me a glimpse of what is north and west and south?
North.
And I know that you said there are 8, but just do the basic 4.
So the basic 4. So north has to do, it starts with the number 1, and that's career. It has to do with your way or the Tao. It's kind of your journey through life. And so if someone was kind of stuck or looking at changing careers, we would look in the north area of the house or property to see what we could bring there or what's happening there to help move them in that direction. So east is now the rising sun, right? So then we move to the south, which is sun at the full spectrum. It's very yang. It has to do with illumination and how you're seeing fame and your reputation in the world. That has to do with the energy of fire. And then if we move to the west in the setting sun, right, we have more of contraction of energy. And that has to do with, if the rising energy has to do with your ancestors and your family, the setting has to do with kind of your children and your creativity. So it has to do with the element of metal, and it has to do with the lungs, That's the organ that it's associated with.
And what season is that?
And that would be fall or autumn, the contraction of energy.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Now, you also use some tools when you go either into homes or into the office, and you have some of them here. Could you explain what some of these things are?
Yes. This is a pendulum, and I use this to either do map dowsing, so I can do some dowsing on a floor plan or a large plot plan, and I can look for underground streams of water or any geopathic stress. Geopathic stress is any disturbance in the Earth's actual energy. Could be crossing water crossings underneath the Earth. Could have to do with fault lines and water crossings. What that does is it creates a spiral of energy or a vortex. We don't want to be sleeping or sitting over those.
Now, what do you do in an area that has a history of earthquakes? We're in that area, so how do you work around that?
Well, there are lots of fault lines that we're around. What that does, if we think about it, it's very dynamic energy. I mean, we're on the cutting edge here. Lots happening. But we look, as long as you're not spending a lot of time on one of these fault lines, you're okay, because they are passing around. If, for instance, your bed is on a fault line or a crossing, we would do some shielding work, or we would just move the bed and get you off of there. Because over time, that's going to impact your health.
Shielding work? What is that?
Shielding you can do, shielding is, so if we have a vortex of energy that's creating a negative energy in your place of sleep or your place of work where you spend a lot of time, I work with intention. So I work to shield that energy back into the earth, and so that you are not going to be affected by it. You can also use a reverse coil and put it on there, and that would reverse the spin back down into the earth. And it's working with intention. I mean, that's what's beautiful about this work. It's about harnessing the power of intention.
Wonderful. And what else?
So one of the other tools I use are called rods, dowsing rods. A lot of people know these because if you ever dig a well, you'll call a water witcher in, and this is how they're going to find water on your land.
How does that work?
It works through, we're a magnetic being, we're electromagnetic, and so is the earth. And so all this is a manifestation of my own energy. So if I ask it a question, I can get a yes or a no for it. And
do you do two at the same time, or can you just do it with one?
I just do with one. That's what works for me, but a lot of people use two. They'll cross over. But I get enough energy with just one. You could just ask for a yes, and that's my yes. And if you go back to neutral and ask for a no, that would be my no. And so you just have to be really clear about what you're asking for. But I would walk the land with this, or walk a house to, this is a good way to read chi, or read energy in a house. Start at the front door, and then I'll follow it around the house. We want the energy in the house to meander. So if I walk up to a room and it does this, I know no chi is entering the room. So we want to figure out why.
Fascinating. And then what is this machine?
This is a Gauss meter, and this is to read the electromagnetic fields, man-made electromagnetic fields in the house. This has to do with electricity. Anything that's running through electric wires in the house, the control panel, any kind of electric circuitry. We check always where you sleep, where you spend a lot of time, because we want to be in a low field. This is not a harmonious energy with our own energy field, so we want to make sure that we're not in a high energy field, because over time it will impact our health.
Now, what